everybody, Backyard Bullion here. Now if you've ever wondered what £30,000 worth, that's about 33,000 euros or $37,500 worth of silver look like, then you need look no further, as this is a very large pile of silver, very heavy pile of silver, and this is of course the contents of that huge unboxing video that we did earlier in the week. I'll put a link to that down in the description below if you want to see all of this coming out of that box. It was an event, definitely. It was quite a special unboxing. It's one of the last potential group order unboxings that we are going to be doing, and I will be talking a little bit about that in the second half of this video, about the future for these group orders and some of the thoughts that we've got here in the Backyard Bullion household about them. But before we get into all of that, I wanted to talk a little bit about just the sheer weight and size of all of this and its relative value, because in the grand scheme of things, £30,000, $37,000, it's a lot of money, don't get me wrong, but it's not life-changing money. It's not money that could sustain you for the rest of your life. Even if you were in, retirement age, it's very much a limited amount of money. And you see all of this laid out in front of us and you think that's a huge amount of wealth. It's so much, but it's actually not. And that's one of the quandaries about silver, that it's quite a precious metal. There is no doubting that. It's valuable, but it's not really actually that valuable in the grand scheme of things. You have to have a colossal amount of silver to really have kind of life-changing, huge stashes of cash. And there is just no substitute to it except for the other precious metals out there like gold. And you look at this pile of silver and you think it's fantastic, it's great, and a lot of people would be absolutely over the moon if their stacks of silver looked like this and had this much variety and wealth locked up in it. But ultimately it's peanuts in the grand scheme of things, which is a really weird thing to say. And please bear with me, I'm not criticizing the reasons for buying silver. Don't get me wrong, I really do think that there is a place for purchasing silver in any portfolio, and if anything, it kind of argues the point that this is all ridiculously undervalued at the moment, and that there's an argument to be said that there should be a correction in the value of this stuff when you look at it in this perspective. I always am a firm believer, and I have been for a long time now, that gold is a much more serious long-term investment than silver, and all the silver that I own is predominantly there to help fuel the purchases of gold at a later time, when perhaps that silver goes up in value, or that silver recorrects in value. So there's a whole host of different reasons why people might want to be looking to buy silver. But one thing that a lot of people don't necessarily consider is that over time, the amount of silver that you have really does accumulate quite quickly. And this stuff is heavy, it's dense, and it weighs a lot to its value ratio. The weight-value ratio is a lot. And don't get me wrong, there are worse options out there. If you wanted to invest in copper, for example, you'd have to have a whole warehouse the size, for a value amount of this. But it's still considerable, and it's not something that everybody factors in. And you might say, well, that's a bit of a first world problem if you've got so much silver that it's so heavy you can't store it properly or you can't move it quickly. But for a lot of people, that's actually a fairly important thing. If you've got silver and gold and everything, you are probably in the camp of thinking that it's a hedge inflationary style thing. Oh, I can't get this. I can never open the American Eagle tube, so we'll just have to look at them in some baggies. If you're buying silver and gold as a means to hedge and protect your cash and value, then at some point, you might be relying on it being used and actually having to sell it or move it or take it. And if there was there are some people out there who will prep and who'll stack silver as that kind of barter tool token to have in those emergency situations. And my argument to you is, if you've got so much of your cash locked up in this stuff that you can't move and you have to leave your home in a rush, in a hurry, that's difficult. If you've got a couple of ounces of gold, you could stick that in your pocket and you can run out with an awful lot of wealth. But if you've got the equivalent amount of wealth in silver, that's going to be a little bit more heavy. And you put this in perspective, this whole table's worth here, the package that came from the European Mint was around 57 kilos. Obviously there's a little bit of packaging and plastic and tube weight in there and everything, but you're probably looking at least 45 kilos worth of silver on the table here. Now 45 kilos is possible to lift, and I lifted that 57 kilo parcel up onto the table myself. But let me tell you, that was no easy thing to do at all. And if you were in a situation that you had a large stack like this, love these Queen's Beasties, by the way, but they're so reflective. I always have to do some tactical hiding on the camera. But if you do have a situation that you needed to bug out, it's just so bulky, and the whole amount of silver that you've got on the table here is the roughly equivalent value to about 1 kilo of gold, maybe a touch less than 1 kilo of gold, but still, you put that in perspective, and that really does highlight the gold-silver ratio at the moment. So what's the purpose of my little ramble here about all of these different, well, basically the different weight to value ratios here? I guess it's to get people thinking, and you know, I was very much fell victim to this myself right at the start of stacking this silver. You know, you get quickly addicted to this shiny stuff. It is very, very attractive indeed. And you know, we purchased a whole bunch of silver, we loved it, and then we fell down the rabbit hole, and now you look at us 3 years later and we have significant holdings in both silver and gold. And it's one of those things that you just have to factor in, that if you are going to be stacking for 30 years time, even if you're buying just one tube of coins every month, or you know, however, whatever your budget steps into, you know, you will have an issue at some point with storage. And I've seen it so many times on places like the Silver Forum that people will get started with silver and they'll quickly realise that the amount that they want to put into it, the budget that they want to put into it, soon outstrips the potential for them to store it safely and securely within either their home or elsewhere. This, by the way, is a bag of $half. The lucky sod that ordered these. Why, European Mint, did I not get an entire bag of $half? Ugh! You've really hit the jackpot there. There's loads of walkers in there, loads of, I don't know if there's any key dates or anything like that, but I'm sure you'll have a good old fun time going through all of those when you get them. But the point here is that you know, storage at home is a very interesting premise, and you know, a lot of people will store their silver at home, and if you are stacking and you start to ramp it up, or you start to increase the amount of silver that you're purchasing, you know, if you do have to suddenly leave your home, if there was a situation where your area was evacuated, you know, in the United Kingdom not so long ago, there was a town in, I think it was the South Yorkshire or somewhere in the Midlands, it was called Waverley Bridge, and they have a dam, and the dam very nearly failed and flooded the entire village, which would have been a catastrophe. But people were forced to evacuate. You had to leave your homes. You know, it was just one of those things. And if you've got £30,000 worth or more, £50,000 worth, 100 kilos of silver, and somebody comes knocking on your door saying, right, you have to go right now, this minute, you know, that's not something that you can quickly go and sort out. I know from our point of view, you know, hiding stuff all around the house and having things all over the place, it's not an easy thing to do. Whereas, of course, with gold, you could quite easily have, you know, I suppose it's a bit of a luxury if you can melt down all of your wealth into one particular gold bar. But if you had a roll of gold Britannias, for example, that's going to be a lot more wealth locked up in one little item that you can just pick up, put in your pocket or in your backpack, and off you go. So that bug out situation is really, really key and important, and something that not a lot of people maybe think about. You know, there's also sort of silly things, like if you were going to be moving house somewhere and you have some house movers in and they see that you've got a giant safe, or you know, you're asking them to I can't open that one, I'm not going to try and open it and damage the box, but that's a cool coloured Britannia. But you know, if you're moving house and you've got people that you're trying to help move your stuff, and they see that you've got all these precious metals and things like that, it can be, you know, a fairly concerning thing. You know, privacy is really very important. So there's a whole host of different things to think about and have a look at. And you know, I don't know. Personally, for me, gold is the way forward for sure for the long term. That's one of the reasons why the vast majority of this silver that's on the table here is not. Well, no, I mean, obviously the vast majority of it is not mine, but there's actually very few pieces of silver on this table which are, in fact, for me, for Mrs. Backyard Bullion and I. And that's just simply because we are going to be focusing on gold coming forwards into the future. I do think silver's got a little bit of a limited lifetime for us at the moment with Brexit. So that brings me on to the final part of the video, which is going to be talking a little bit more of an update about these group orders. So since doing the unboxing video, so basically the way that we work it here in the Backyard Bullion household group orders is that the big box will come in, I'll tend to unbox it, and then Mrs. Backyard Bullion usually comes home from work, and then we get started and sorting, going through everything. And you know, we've realised that this is just a monumental amount of work. Now, we love doing it, and of course the real advantage is that we get to create some incredible content with £30,000 worth of silver laid out on the table here. I mean, for gosh sake, I haven't even uncovered this monster box worth of Britannias that's laying underneath these 10 ounces. Just look at that. Now, it's an awful lot of work for us, but I think the biggest thing that I'm struggling with at the moment, and this is really key, is I'm struggling with some of the stress and burdens of this, and it's proving to be detrimental, I think, to ultimately what I really wanted to achieve with these group orders. Now, maybe it's just the sheer scale of this and the build up to Brexit and the amount of stress and energy that we have to put into this to create, manage, organise, sort, liaise with the European Mint, unbox, package, all of that. It's a lot to deal with, is I guess what I'm saying. And you can probably tell I get a little bit emotional here because I get a bit worried about letting people down. And I guess that's where we're going with this. So I think for the time being, certainly with the run-up to Brexit, we won't be doing any more group orders. If you want to order silver from the European Mint before Brexit, you can still do so directly, and I would highly recommend that you do it. We'll try and work something out with the European Mint to offer a discount code for shipping or something like that. But just from my own perspective, I think I need a break from this stuff, from doing these group orders. It's an awful lot of stress and strain, and obviously, you know, you've got a lot of expectation on you from all of the customers out there, rightly so. You know, they're putting their hard-earned money and faith in us to deliver a product and a service, and it's really hard to do that with the full gusto that I want right now. So I need a break from it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Combine that with some impending surgery on my foot, and for those who are just hearing that, don't worry, there's nothing seriously wrong with me. It's just an ongoing issue with my foot. But I will be having surgery at some point before Christmas, and that's going to have a big impact on my ability to work. I am going to hopefully still continue to produce YouTube videos for you fine people with as much gusto as I can. One of the things I won't be able to do is sort of silver pour quite so much. But you know, we're going to try and work out a way that we can still bring you guys great content here on YouTube, even if that's happening. So I'm really sorry to sort of bring you that news that we won't be doing any more group orders, I think, for the foreseeable future. And it's all Brexit dependent, of course, and you know, potentially into the future, if we get a deal and there's a situation where we can get free trade from Europe still, or we can get access to American trades and things like that, then perhaps we'll look into doing these again. But for the time being, certainly in the build-up to Christmas, this is it for the group orders. And if you want to order silver yourselves, there is no better company, in my opinion, than the European Mint. There's a link down in the description to their website. Go and check them out and contact them directly and say you're a Backyard Bullion referee, and I'm sure that they will be able to link you up with some kind of discount, or I hope so anyway. I mean, I'm putting words in their mouth a little bit, but I know they're a very pragmatic company. So that's it for us here today. Large pile of silver. Mrs. Backyard Bullion and I are going to go off now and package this all up for everybody. Probably by the time this video goes out, everybody will have had their silver anyway. But that's it really for now. Thank you one and all for watching. If you guys have got any comments, queries, questions, anything you want to ask us, then please feel free to hit it down in the comment section. If you enjoyed today's video and ramble about silver being a little bit too heavy, then please make sure you hit the like button. If you want to see videos from us in the future, hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed, and hit the alarm bell if you want to get notifications when those videos go live. Otherwise, that's it for today. Thank you one and all for watching. Have a fantastic week, and as always, please make sure that you like, share, comment, and subscribe for more.